So you guys go ahead and go around, kind of look at things, read a little bit of information. Like I said, there's some sassafras tea here. There's some mint tea down here if you guys want to pour a little cup and try it. And there's maple syrup down there on the end. There are all kinds of things in it. Anyhow, Ed came across this great article. It's 6 trees every survivalist should know and why. If you go down through there, white birch, you're going to find in a lot of areas, especially where I live, you're not going to find this tree. White birch is very hard to find unless somebody has it as an ornamental decoration. Now there's places that you go, they have whole forests of nothing but white birch. So in order to find this, I actually, in front of our county's emergency management building, they happen to have one of those trees. So somebody slid by it and snagged a little branch off there. If you want to, you can go through and read each and every single individual thing of what they're good for. White birch is especially good for its papery-like bark. And a lot of the younger trees you're not going to find that with. You're going to have to find more mature trees to get that actual paper off there, which is good for tinder starting and all kinds of things like that. The sap is drinkable, straight. Actually, some people would actually tap the trees and actually get a liter and fill their canteens from that. And the higher calorie things and carbohydrates you're getting from that. So I was trying to get some birch beer. I failed. I wasn't able to find any for taste testing. But
should have called me. Go down to my house has it.
There you go. The leaves. No.
I was gonna say next meeting's over her way, so we can all have birch beer.
There you go. The leaves on it, you can see from the picture in there, they're very pointed. A lot of points throughout the leaf itself. You can go through, and I do actually have that leaf running around here. And
what is it?
The white birch. That's elm here.
I don't see it.
It's here, right here in front. Yep, there's birch. So you guys can go through and read through the card. It actually has more things on the card, some interesting facts from it. I really didn't read through most of this stuff because I kind of know it off by heart when I've got there. But that's the birch tree. Like I said, you can go through there and check that out. The basswood, I wasn't able to find that. I could not find any. I think on Ed's property down the road here, they actually have some of that, but it's a very soft wood. Most carvers, things like that, use that. It makes a good tinder also when it's dry. Some other things that they commented on there. They have a heart-shaped leaf in there. This aspen here is very similar to that of the basswood as far as everything that its components of it and everything. The only difference between the leaf shape is that's got more of a spade type shape, where the basswood has an actual heart shaped leaf. They said they can use that basswood, the outer bark of the finer branches, actually use as twine. Actually strip it down and then braid it together to make it stronger, but it does work as a really good twine. Then I got white pine here, and I actually got that. And it's one of the unique pine trees to where actually the needles together, they actually grow in bundles of 5. And the white pine's very good for all kinds of things. The sap is good, like similar for the fire starting. The sap resin there, good for starting fires. The dry needles, good for starting fires. You could actually boil the leaves or steep them, and it's got higher contents of vitamin C than most fruits do. It's very high in vitamin A, I do believe also. But I'm not sure on that one. Out of all the pine trees, and that I think it does contain the most vitamin A and vitamin C both. And I guess they actually make pine tree candy from the white pine. But I haven't researched that enough to learn more about that. But I think that would be interesting, doing a pine tree tea and pine tree candy.
Are all pine trees okay to use their needles to make?
As far as I know, you can. Some of them are more toxic on the liver, though. So you'd have to kind of look up, if you know you've got a spruce, look up and see what it is. But there are some pines that can be hard on your liver. But this one's pretty safe to do. But steep them, don't boil them for long periods of time. Just kind of steep the needles. I think they say about 2 minutes or 3 minutes in there. You can do that, and it's safer that way. I've heard of a toxicity from them, but not so much the white pine. But they say the longer you do it, the more toxic it can be. What to do with that one? There, like I said, there are all kinds of things in it for the white pine. White oak. Down here on towards the middle here, I actually have underneath his paper, there are the 3 different kinds of oak leaves. In the wax paper, on this side you have red oak, on the far side you have white oak, and then laying on the table you actually have your pin oak. I wasn't able to find pin oak where I live, and actually coming up here, this place is polluted with it, down by the bathrooms. Those trees right through there are all pin oak. And the way you can tell the difference between them is the red oak have the pointed needles, pointed ends on the leaves. The white oak is almost identical, but it has the rounded lobes on the leaves. The pin oak, if you look at it compared to the other ones, it is very narrow towards the center of the stem. Can you see that?
The one guy I know used to refer to scrub oak as any small stand of oak that was more or less junk trees.
Junk
They
trees.
weren't big enough to be useful.
You know what? I think I've heard Wrangler Star say that. Scrub oak.
Around.
Is that called scrub oak?
I don't know. It's the guy come out that
That's
took
pretty
my pine
useless,
trees
too.
down.
Oh, he just didn't want to give you the money for them.
Okay, there
Well,
might be a brand.
while we're on the topic of the oak trees,
We're not
the
going unless I
difference
say we're
between
going.
red oak and white oak especially is the white oak, the acorns contain less tannin in them, so they're a little bit safer to eat and they have a better taste to them. The red oak, the acorns are going to be very bitter because of the high tannin levels in there. Some of them also, it's been known as tannic acid. It's used for tanning hides and things like that. The white oak, when you boil them, you do have to clear that tannic acid out of those acorns. You can dry it, then grind it into flour. What else? The teas. There's been teas made from the acorns. There's definitely some more information on those cards if you want to look at them. And then sugar maple. Sugar maples, excellent tree for maple syrup. The bark, the inside of the barks can be eaten. Very high in nutrients. When looking at the maple leaf, if you go down there towards the end, when you get the chance to look at it compared to the sycamore. They are very, very similar. This is a good tree. If you're not sure about the leaf, look at the bark of the tree. Sycamores, you know, most people around here know what sycamores are because they grow along the river banks, and towards the top they're white.
Everywhere you don't want
it. Peeling bark on it, and Jason took the bark away. But big difference between those two trees, but the leaves are very, very similar. With the maple leaves, they have five leaves on them, or 5 points. Some people don't count the bottom 2, they only count the top 3, where the sycamore has like 7 to 9 points at the tops of those. With the maple, I brought some maple syrup, actually homemade maple syrup. There's some at the end of the thing. You guys can try that if you want to. Help yourselves. There are little taste tester spoons down there. Another identification with the maple are those little helicopters that come off of them. And actually inside those seeds, you can actually eat those seeds inside. You can fry them and eat them.
Can you just eat them raw?
You can eat them raw.
Yeah, but they don't taste very good.
Right. Cook them.
Do them like pumpkin
Salt and
seeds.
pepper 'em.
Little bit of olive oil and salt.
Maple drops
Bake
the
'em.
seeds in the spring, and the silver maple and a lot of the others drop in the fall.
Yeah.
Right, and like there are several different species of maple, and they all kind of produce at different times. Kind of like the red oak and the white oak, they kind of produce a little different also. Some are on a yearly basis, some are on a bi-yearly basis. Maple, I noticed here, we do have silver maple around here. Where I live, we have sugar maples. We also have a lot of Russian maples that people have brought over as ornamental trees, and they've kind of gone out. So if you see the maple leaves that are real bright purple, those are generally your Russian maples. But I do believe all species of maple, the syrup is edible.
Yes.
I think that, we got willow yet on that one. The willow bark does contain a chemical called psilocin, and it's kind of like a derivative of aspirin. In native times, they would use the willow, not only the bark in that, they would make like a pumice out of it and apply it to bruises, sprains, cuts, any type of wound like that to kind of clear out the wound. And then also they would drink or eat some of the bark as well. make a tea from it, and it does kind of help with headaches, stomach issues, things like that. And I do have a lot of willow down here. That was pretty much what all was in this little packet. And then I found this little cute article on tea. And I thought that was kind of neat. It talks about the pine needle tea, some mint tea, the black willow tea, and uses for it. And then slippery elm tea. And I'd never heard of slippery elm tea. So that was kind of a new one for me. If you guys want to kind of walk around and look, I have sassafras over here. And I made a really, really tiny batch of sassafras tea. And I kind of cut it and made my own root beer tea. And it's actually how root beer got started. It was from sassafras. So we have some root beer tea down here you can try. There's a little bit of sassafras in the dish there. You can smell to see what it smells like. I picked up a kind of a different tree you don't see all the time, but this is honeysuckle. And it's another one that has berries, and preppers, if you're like bugging out or something and you think you can grab yourself a snack, this is one you want to avoid. Just because it has a pretty berry on it doesn't mean you can eat it. This one is toxic. They say that you can eat the flower from it when it's in bloom, but I'm not sure what a benefit it would have. It really didn't go into much information on it. But this is definitely one you want to avoid. I do believe, is this one got a hallucinogenic? Mildly
Oh yeah,
poisonous.
we're gonna
It will-
avoid it now.
Yeah, vomiting, diarrhea, and increased
Cancel that one.
heart rate. We don't want
Bring
that.
that one back to the tent.
But this is one that,
Pass it around.
Yeah, pass that one around, man.
hey, this is an interesting one. Oh, there's another double one that I couldn't find. My sycamore. Can you throw that down there on that? The catawba. A lot of people have these around. A lot of interesting information about the catawba tree. Indians used to smoke these pods for, they would use them like,
Recreational use.
yeah, recreational use. They would use them in sweat lodges and things like that because they do have that hallucinogenic effect. Another interesting fact about the catawba tree, fishermen love this tree. It actually attracts the catawba, it's a weird name, but this actual caterpillar worm. And they would go out there and they would take these worms and they would put them in sacks and then take them home. And when they got them home, they put them in cornmeal and freeze them. And they actually stay alive. They'll freeze, and then when you bring them out a year, 2 years later, they actually come back to life. Their metabolism slows down that much, but they're awesome for fishing bait. So that's another interesting tree.
What's it called?
Catawba.
Fishing bait,
Fishing
bachelor parties.
fish tree.
Hallucinate all night and then go fishing with them.
Yeah, right.
Mulberry. That's one that you don't find very often, but a lot of farmers at least have one or two of the mulberry trees on there.
And half of them don't know what it's
kind of
for.
look at the leaf and then kind of look at the elm. They're kind of very similar in what they look like. On that sheet, slippery elm tea, I put a little thing down here, and I want you to kind of feel the difference between the slippery elm and the regular North American elm. The slippery elm is very shiny and very smooth, where inside the wax paper there I have the actual North American elm. And you can feel it and feel how it feels like sandpaper. So you guys go ahead, go around, kind of look at things, read a little bit of information. Like I said, there's some sassafras tea here. There's some mint tea down here if you guys want to pour a little cup and try it. And there's maple syrup down there on the end.
What do you do for sassafras?
Then if you got questions, I'm here.
Bust me out one.
Nothing.
Bust me out, man.
Yeah, if you guys are
Bust me off a little bit of that.
Thank you.
difference.
What's a scrub oak?
That one I don't know.
Never heard of that either.
No, I know that some of these I even wrote down there's so many different species of each.
Species of white oak, there's several species of red oak. Post oak, black
I hope that's on there.
divisions in between.
Did you hear him?
Right.
Sorry. But did you hear what he said?
No.
The scrub oak is the oak that couldn't make the varsity team.